The patient in room 312 died on Tuesday. So why did her call bell ring at 3 a.m. on Friday? I went in to fix a glitch, but when a cold, dead hand grabbed my wrist and whispered my name, I realized some patients never actually check out. The silence of the Oak Haven corporate plaza wasn't a natural silence. It was a heavy, pressurized vacuum that seemed to suck the sound out of Marcus's lungs. At 2 a.m., the building changed. During the day, it was a hub of glass, sunlight, and the frantic clicking of keyboards. At night, it became a tomb of cold marble and humming servers. Marcus had been working security for 6 months. It was a job that paid for his night classes, but the isolation was starting to grate on him. His only companion was Dave, a man in his late 50s who had seen everything and said very little. They worked the dead man's rotation, 12 hours of staring at 48 flickering monitors in a basement room that smelled of ozone and stale coffee. "I'm hitting the perimeter," Dave grunted, grabbing his heavy belt. "Keep an eye on the feed for Sector 4. The motion sensors have been twitchy lately. Probably just the HVAC kicking in." Marcus nodded, settling into the ergonomic chair that had lost its lumbar support years ago. For an hour, nothing moved. The monitors showed empty lobbies, darkened cubicles, and the long, eerie stretch of the 4th-floor hallway, a windowless corridor that led to the high-security server farm. At 2:42 a.m., Monitor 14, the 4th floor, flickered. A green light on the console signaled motion. Marcus leaned in. A figure had emerged from the shadows of the emergency stairwell. It was dressed in the dark navy tactical gear of the Oak Haven security team. The gait was familiar, a slow, deliberate pace. "Dave, you're making good time," Marcus said into his radio, his voice cracking slightly from disuse. "I thought you were checking the loading docks first. You're on the 4th, right?" There was no response, just the low-frequency hum of the monitors. "Dave, come in." Marcus watched the screen. The figure stopped walking. It stood directly under a flickering fluorescent tube. Marcus felt a bead of sweat roll down his spine. The figure's proportions were off. The arms seemed a few inches too long, the fingers dangling near the knees. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. Dave's voice was distorted by heavy interference, but he sounded calm. "Marcus, I'm down in the sub-basement. The backup generator is leaking oil. I'm gonna be down here for at least 30 minutes. Why? Everything okay up top?" Marcus felt the air leave the room. He stared at the monitor. If Dave was in the basement, who was on the 4th floor? The figure on the screen slowly began to tilt its head back. It wasn't a smooth motion. It was a series of sharp, mechanical jerks. As the face came into the light, Marcus gasped. There was no skin, no eyes, no mouth. It was a smooth, porcelain-white surface, like a mannequin that had been melted and reshaped. It had no features, yet Marcus felt it staring right through the camera, right into his soul. Then, the thing did something that broke Marcus's mind. It raised a hand, long, spindly fingers twitching, and began to wave. It wasn't a wave of greeting, it was a mocking, rhythmic movement. "I'm going up," Marcus whispered to the empty room. He grabbed his flashlight and his baton, though he knew deep down they would be useless. He took the elevator to the 4th floor. The doors opened with a soft ding that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. The hallway was freezing. The air tasted metallic. Marcus shone his light down the corridor. "Security. Identify yourself." His voice echoed back to him, hollow and mocking. He walked to the exact spot where the figure had stood. The floor was empty. He checked the server room door. It was locked and the seal was unbroken. He checked the janitor's closet. Empty. Then he heard it. Behind him, a soft, wet slap 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 of bare feet on the linoleum. He spun around, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark. There was nothing, but when he looked down at the floor in the beam of his light, he saw something that made him quit that very night. On the polished floor, where no one had walked for hours, was a trail of wet, bare footprints. They didn't lead to a door or an exit. They led directly to the wall, and then they simply stopped. Skin and a soft heart. But Sarah never expected to need a shield for her sanity. St. Jude's Hospice was an old manor converted into a medical facility. Its hallways were narrow, its floorboards groaned under the weight of history, and the shadows always seemed a little too long. Sarah was the only RN on the night shift, supported by one CNA named Elena. That night, the atmosphere was thin. That was the only way Sarah could describe it. like the veil between life and death had worn down to a translucent thread. In room 312, Mrs. Gable had passed away 3 days prior. She had been a difficult patient, not because she was mean, but because she was terrified. She would constantly ring her call bell, crying out that she had forgotten to take her heart medication, even when she was in the final stages of renal failure and medications were no longer the priority. "Sarah," Elena whispered at the nurse's station. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" "The humming. It's coming from the East Wing." The East Wing was currently empty. They had no patients there until a new intake arrived on Monday. Sarah sighed, checking her watch. 3:15 a.m. "It's probably just the wind in the old vents, Elena. Go take your break. I'll do the rounds." Sarah walked toward the East Wing. As she crossed the threshold, the temperature plummeted. She could see her breath in the dim glow of the night lights. She reached the door of 312 and noticed it was slightly ajar. She pushed it open, expecting to find a window left open by the cleaning crew. Instead, the room was perfectly sealed. But the air was heavy with the scent of lilies and antiseptic, the exact scent Mrs. Gable used to wear to mask the smell of illness. Suddenly, the call light above the bed snapped on. The red glow bathed the room in a bloody hue. Sarah's heart hammered. She walked to the bed, her hand trembling. She reached for the reset button on the wall. As her fingers closed around the plastic, she felt a cold, firm grip wrap around her wrist. The hand was skeletal, the skin feeling like dry parchment. Sarah tried to scream, but her throat had seized up. A voice, low and rattling with the death knell sound she knew all too well, rose from the empty bed. "I can't go yet, Sarah. You didn't give me the blue pill. I'm going to miss the bus if I don't take the blue pill." Sarah looked down. There was no one in the bed, but the sheets were being pulled tight, as if someone was sitting upright. The indentation of a body formed in the mattress right before her eyes. "Mrs. Gable?" Sarah managed to choke out. You're at peace now. You don't need the pills." The grip on her wrist tightened until Sarah winced in pain. The voice turned from a plea to a snarl. "Liar. You're trying to keep me here. Give me the medicine." The call light began to flicker violently. The medical monitors, which weren't even plugged into the wall, suddenly roared to life. The EKG showed a flat line, the long, continuous beep piercing the air like a siren. Sarah wrenched her arm free and stumbled backward into the hall. She didn't stop until she hit the nurse's station, gasping for air. Elena was standing there, pale as a ghost. "Sarah, look at your arm," Elena whispered. Sarah pulled up her sleeve. Burned into her skin were 5 distinct finger marks, bruising instantly into a deep, sickly purple. The next morning, the maintenance crew checked the wiring in room 312. They found nothing wrong, but when they pulled back the mattress to flip it, they found something that made Sarah's blood run cold. Tucked deep into the frame of the bed, where Mrs. Gable's head would have rested, was a small, plastic cup containing a single blue pill, the one she had insisted on having the night she died.